And that's again subtle microaggression, racism, whatever you want to call it. And you don't notice these things until you do.
It's just become this whole phase of hate on brown people because it's suddenly a thing.
You know what they say, desperate times call for.
Living abroad at a time when a single viral video can make people look at you differently.
If you've been there or you're there, this one's for you.
This is Desperate Times.
Welcome back to another episode of Desperate Times. I'm Sakshi,
And I'm Varun.
and today we're going to talk about a recent post that I saw that was almost eluding or stating facts about how at different points in time there's a particular type of people. How should I just say it? Okay, there's a particular race that gets all the bad rap, basically.
Mm-hmm.
We go through different times in history, and we're at a time right now where, as a lot of y'all must have seen the title, brown people are getting the bad rap.
Yep. And what we're referring to more specifically is actually from a video that went viral just last week. Not specifically from Canada, it was a video from the US, and I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it, of this one brown woman in, I don't know what store, shoplifting,
Target,
and I
Target.
guess it was Target, was shoplifting and getting a bunch of, trying to get a bunch of merchandise and then trying to haggle with the cops to just get away with it. But what we're trying to get at is there are always certain people who are like the bad apples of the society in general, not specific to a race.
Yes.
But it's just become a certain point in time right now where on social media, I guess it's become cool to just hate on brown people for some reason.
In fact, I saw it this morning, and you don't even know this, Varun, because I saw it this morning
Okay.
on my TikTok. I've never received hate comments at all. Even on my Instagram, I've not received hate comments yet.
Hmm.
But there was a comment on a video of mine which was simply explaining this thing that's happening in the city, that I went there and this is what you can do, blah, blah, blah. There was a comment that said, deport, deport, deport. And
What the
the
fuck?
account name was, please deport Indians. And I'm not even doing anything, even then, like saying something like that. And the funniest thing is, I reported it as harassment and bullying, or was something like that. I reported it to TikTok,
Gotcha.
and TikTok said, this doesn't
This
violate our
is not,
policies.
as I guessed.
And I was like, what? I'm getting hate comments now, and it says deport for what? It is so
Absolutely
funny.
no reason. As I said, it's just become this whole phase of hate on brown people because it's suddenly a thing. And this reminds me of another video that had kind of surfaced a couple of months ago of, this was specific to Canada, a couple of months ago of this one guy who happened to film a video of another lady kind of pointedly telling at him and looking at him and just saying, "Go back home. What are you doing here?" And he's just like, I'm born here. I'm raised here.
Born
What do
here.
you mean?" I may even, if my memory serves me right, this may even have been Quebec specifically because she starts. He starts talking to her in French, and he starts like pointedly asking her, "I can speak French. Can you?" And she just
I'll tell
couldn't.
you. I'll tell you where it's from. It's actually not from Quebec. It's from
Okay,
Kitchener-Waterloo area.
okay.
Yeah, because there it's a lot of it's a university town in the end, right? Because of the colleges and everything. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of students and there's other people who lived there all their lives, and then they feel like, oh my God, this person's coming from outside and just making their life. But like you said, I remember that video very well because that person's like, I'm born here, and then he starts speaking French, and that woman starts walking away
Because she
because
realized
he doesn't speak French.
it was in that moment she realized that she fucked up.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, we get judged by how we look and how
Mhm.
we are, just because, like you mentioned, of some bad apples. And this is not us hating on us, I guess, but it's just like, I don't even know what to say at this point because it doesn't make anyone look good.
I think it's kind of what I stated a couple minutes ago or seconds ago is that these people who are doing these actions that are not acceptable in society are technically can be and are from every possible ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
It's not like there's one ethnicity in particular that is bringing out the bad side of people. And there have
For
been
sure.
different ethnicities in the past that have faced similar situations for
Uh,
themselves. And what people need to kind of realize is that, sure, there are people out there who are doing this shit that's not right, but that doesn't mean the race as a whole
everyone.
is, as a collective, has been raised to do a certain thing, because that's far from the reality.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also another incident where people think that people from India specifically or Asian countries don't know how to speak English. And I've had that happen to me personally where I went for this one interview for a very small business and they were only looking to hire me because they wanted to market their product in India and they thought that I would better understand the audience there. While I understood the audience, they clearly didn't because they were like, oh, how would we run ads? Do we run ads in their language? I'm like, what do you mean by their language? We speak
Mm,
English. Like, we were a British common, like, colony,
colony.
right? So we spoke English from school. In fact, I would argue that I know English better than I know how to speak Hindi. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't even know if I can read Hindi properly at this stage, right? So I had that interview and I really needed a job at that time. But because of the way that person was speaking about, what type of people, do they know how to speak English or not, and how they are, and I was like, you know what, I can't work for you. I am
Honestly,
rejecting you.
Honestly, Sakshi, if on, and this is something I keep stating every now and then to most people I meet, is that if only I had $1 for every time someone looked at me and was like, "Oh, you're from India? How do you speak English so well?"
Oh my God.
It's insane how often that
All the
happens. And
time.
I have actually, there are videos of even the biggest of celebrities getting this question on interview platforms, which is insane. Like, I don't understand what people are expecting from the country. If you look, and here's me just, I don't know the exact numbers, but throwing a demographic at you, that it has been shown by number that India as a subcontinent has the largest number of English speakers. And I've been getting this question for like well over 2 years now since I've moved here. And every single time I get that question, I'm just like, guys, I need you to understand. I have grown up speaking in English. I have spoke my
Exactly.
primary language of communication, even with my parents, is English. So
Exactly.
it should not be a surprise to anyone that I
Yeah.
speak English well, and that should not even be a factor of conversation coming into play
Right.
in this situation.
I mean, most Europeans, most South Asian countries, most Southeast Asian countries are at least bilingual, if not trilingual or multilingual. Like we
Hmm.
speak English, we'll speak a common language that is spoken around us, and then we have our mother tongues, which is usually different. I mean, most of my friends from back home are multilingual. I know a lot of Southeast Asian people as well. They'll speak their mother tongue and then they know English as well, or like a language like French or something, because these countries have been colonies of other countries, so they've left that print behind, right? So you learn to adapt and you grow. So that whole thing about English, it's just funny to me. And then the other thing is French. Like that's another one. Because half the world is either speaking Mandarin, French, English, or
Hmm.
something else, right? So we know the language. Just trust us with it.
And so here's the thing, because we have been born in India, and this is something that I've realized along the way, ethnicity is not one that has been trained to identify any form of racism, mild or
Mhm.
major, because within the country, we don't see any of it, right? I guess people living in other countries and ethnicities that have lived in other countries for very long kind of then know to raise their kids in a way wherein they're taught to identify racism and what is right and what is wrong. But the generation before us couldn't really pass that knowledge to us because they've never faced it themselves, because we're a fairly new country, to be honest, in terms of our independence, right? And
Mhm.
along the way, what I've realized is, and what I did not know because I did not know how to determine what is racism and what is not, a term that I've learned more recently is one that's called microaggressions. And
Mhm.
for me, it was very casual. Every time someone said I speak English very well, I was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, no big deal, a little bit of annoyance here and there, and then I just brush it off. There was a friend of mine who, with the two of us, were sitting at a cafe, and she's from France, I'm from India, and then there was this one man who like walked up to both of us at our table, and he was like, "Oh, where you all from?" And then we both stated our countries, and then he was like, "Oh, both of you speak English so well," and we would have had a small conversation with him, and then he went back to his table, and that friend pointed it out to me, being like, "You know what? This is basically microaggressions," and I was like. okay, I guess this does count as
Uh,
some form of racism, even if microaggression is a word that finds some ways defined as people unknowingly and in a very minor way causing inconvenience based
right.
on race, ethnicity, or whatever. But it's still something that shouldn't be happening.
No, for sure. And until now, I was calling that subtle racism. And
Mm,
because it's not outwardly and it's not like aggressive and you can't see it. So it's like passive aggressive. Like you said, microaggressions. It's almost passive aggressive. It's subtle racism. You can miss it if you don't know it, like because we weren't taught about it. And I have all these small incidences. More recently at the Coldplay concert, we had floor tickets and
hmm.
we got a really good spot. Like, if y'all want to see what that is, go check out my Instagram. But it was really good. Like, Chris Martin was in front of us, the band was in front of us, like all four of them. To get there, we had to basically, stand through the opening artists as well. And Coldplay was
Hmm.
coming at 8:45. So we'd been standing there since 5 p.m. until 11 p.m. when the concert gets over. And this mother and daughter, and I won't say their ethnicity right now, but people
Okay.
wouldn't bat an eye if they did anything. So they came and stood right in front of us after the second artist was done. So this was just before Coldplay coming on, like maybe half an hour before. They came and stood
Hmm.
in front of us, and we were just like, what the fuck? Because are we idiots standing here from 5 p.m. trying to get a good spot and you can just waltz in and do whatever the fuck you want? So we're standing, not saying anything because we're nice people. We don't want to make a ruckus. Like we don't do that.
Yeah.
And then we were like, "Hey, are you guys planning to move?" They were like, "No, we're just standing here." So then we said, "Well, you're blocking our view." So they said, "Oh well, certain people came and stood in front of us and did the same thing. So I mean, it's whatever." And we're just like, "What? No, it's not just whatever." So we just gave up. We were like, "Fuck this shit." And then
Hmm.
there were other people around us as well, and all of us sort of exchanged looks because they were not just inconveniencing us, but because they came and stood there, they pushed on everyone else's space
Yeah.
as well. So all of us were looking at each other, exchanging looks and everything. And then maybe they had a good conscience. They were like, no, 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 you guys go in front, you guys go in front. I'm like, what do you mean you guys go in front? We were standing there.
Standing there.
So, and then the good part about here was the other people also, they're like, oh, you guys go in front. I said, you're not just inconveniencing me. It's not just about me. It's about everyone around you. Like, look at them too. It's not just me. So then they had a conversation with the people next to us. And then somehow they were like, no, no, you'll go in front. I feel bad, blah, blah, blah. So then the moral compass sort of let us go in front. Now, I don't know if they made some comments afterwards or anything, but
Hmm.
this whole incident was if we had done something like this, we would get bashed for. The video would probably go viral on the internet
Yeah.
because they looked a certain way and everything. It was completely okay. And that's again subtle microaggression, racism, whatever you want to call it. And you don't notice these things until you do. And then,
Exactly, right? And these are more like retrospective things that we kind of realize being like, would it have been the same had it not been a person of my ethnicity in particular? And that's when it kind of clocks in, being like, you know what? I don't think so. And that is messed up.
and especially when you're going to something like a concert where everyone is supposed to be like there for that one artist and music brings you together and everything, and then you don't really want to think those thoughts. So it's more a
Hmm.
retrospective thought that you mentioned. And something similar happened to me at the Era store here in Toronto as well. And I had floor tickets last minute, literally so excited to go. First concert alone. And I'm entering the area where you enter for floor tickets. It's a separate entrance altogether for
Hmm.
Rogers Center. That was different. Security guard was actually Indian, a woman. And at that time, I didn't think about it. But when I was walking in, and she wasn't even checking anything, she's like, these are floor tickets. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And somehow it was just like, what? I can't get floor tickets? Like, what do you mean? I know where I'm walking. I've walked
Hmm.
around the whole thing. And the way she said it, it was like, you can't even be here. Like, why are you here getting these are floor tickets? Are you sure you're in the right section? And at that point, I didn't think about it. And then later it just hit me, and I'm like,
Yeah,
why?
this is definitely a systemic problem that is existing right now for because probably of all the hype that is being created around just being brown and how we are perceived in a certain
Yeah.
way. The thing that you just mentioned about you getting floor tickets, actually, I've even seen a particular interview of, I think, Priyanka Chopra, where she was asked a similar question, and she explains this whole situation where she was once on a flight, and she, of course, was in business class or first class, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
was.
Yeah.
And she got up from her seat to use the bathroom in that particular class. And she had like the staffer from the airline come up
Mm.
to her, being like, actually, this bathroom is for this particular class that which she actually was in. And she was like, yeah, I know. That's all right. I'm sitting right there. So imagine we're talking about people like us who are just everyday people going about our life on the street, not known to or not
Mm-hmm.
known personalities to
Yeah.
anybody, but people who are even celebrities on a global scale get the same thing just because of ignorance, I could say, as one, and
Sure.
two, just presumptions about a certain ethnicity, which this person
Mm.
cannot come from this background. And I don't even know how that honestly exists. Like that to me is just a question as well. Because what you see is there are CEOs out there who are mostly Indian in most American
Mm-hmm.
companies. So
Mm-hmm.
what are
Look
we
at the
talking
Silicon
about?
Valley. The doctors, the engineers, I mean,
This reminds me actually, or even of another incident that had happened with me more recently when I was traveling to Toronto to visit you. And that's when we shot the two episodes of
mm-hmm,
living in
mm-hmm.
Montreal and living in Toronto. So we'll plug them for you if you're interested in those. But what had happened was that I had gotten off at Union Station with my luggage to kind of come over to your place. And I will call it out. There's elevators over there, but those elevators are priority for anyone who's differently or specially able. But at the same time, they're not only used by people who are differently or specially able, right? They are used by just everyone. There's high influx of people coming in. It's the main station in
Mm.
the city. So when I got off with my luggage, I was just standing there outside the elevator with 15 other people out there who were ahead of me already. And I was kind of at the back of this entire line. And suddenly from behind me, I hear a voice screaming at me saying, move away from the elevator. Your luggage is not a handicap. It was her words, not mine. And I'm like, okay, sure, I will move away from here. And initially, I didn't even notice if there was someone who needed the elevator in a specific way. And I was like, you know what? Never mind. I'll move away. I'll give way. And then I give it a second look again. And there was a person indeed who did need to use the elevator. So I stayed away, and the elevators got entirely packed with these 15 other people who had nothing had no particular use for the elevator, were just casually using it. And the person who had to walk in did not. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll just walk in. And I got yelled at a second time. At that point in time, I was just confused more than anything because I was more than willing to let the person go by. And sure enough, neither that person nor I entered the elevator. The elevator went full with 15 people who did not need it whatsoever. And then in retrospect, I was like, you know what? I don't think this would have happened with anyone of another race or ethnicity at that point in time. It's just because I was not a particular skin color. I was targeted at that point in time because clearly these 15 other people who had nothing to do with it were just let go of. And it was just me being one brown guy with a luggage who was not allowed to get on that elevator at that point in time.
Yeah,
So things
and
like these just don't make sense.
yeah, no, it's definitely sad and unfortunate, and I feel like I have ignored a lot of these microaggressions or subtle racism just because I don't want them to get to me and spoil my mood. Because I haven't done anything wrong in that case where I should sit about it. And I'm a chronic overthinker. I don't need another thing to overthink about. Like, no.
Hmm.
So that's a choice that I made for myself. But there are incidents obviously that happen on a daily basis, and it's sad because people, even they look at you different. You may be doing nothing, you may be just walking down the street, and it's not very nice. Like, I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but
No, 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 not
definitely
at all.
some people, like, people are really nice and warm as well. And but there's just this, I don't know who it is, what it is. Yeah, like the deport comment. In fact,
Hmm.
there was this one creator who literally shared her opinion about the Coldplay concert again, that it wasn't nice, and she basically said Coldplay was bad. So people got a little
Hmm.
more fired up, but she meant that the Rogers Stadium was bad.
Hmm.
Like, she couldn't hear it properly, it
Got it.
wasn't built properly. And that video's gone viral for the wrong reasons. And in the comments, all of it is basically because of her skin color. She's Indian, and she's like, you know what, had someone of a different race or color, ethnicity said anything about it, y'all would be saying some different things or not as harsh as y'all have been. But it was just so sad to see that she's just putting out her opinion, and it's a free
Hmm.
world, it's a free country. She can't do that. And other
Hmm.
people can also say their opinions and everything, but do you really have to be that harsh about it? Or like, what is up with the world? Like, why so much hate?
I think what's also important to highlight is, along with just hate on the internet, there's a bunch of fake stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
Shit that's completely fabricated, made up, people
Uh,
using AI. Just AI is now an easy tool to get your hands on. People are completely making up these videos that don't exist. In fact, there was one that I remember, I think, which was a video said to be within Canada itself, of this man of Indian descent who was in the video seemingly publicly defecating at a gas station. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I bought into the video as well when
uh,
I first saw it. But then when I just went in and did 2 minutes more of my research to see what the reality was, all I found out was that video is completely fake, completely made up just to target a certain race, a certain ethnicity, which to me was wild. There was absolutely no reason to make this video up apart
uh,
from generating hate and just fueling what already exists out there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just sad. But at the same time, like that video we were talking about, that woman shoplifting at Target, there are videos like that, and they are true, and that's why they are just add more fuel to the fire, right? Like just yesterday, saw this video where a person was sitting at the TTC staircase, like some station, and eating her foot. I'm not quite sure. It was very weird. And we're like, what is happening? Like TTC is weird as is, and now it's
Yeah.
just getting weirder. Like what? And because that person was obviously brown, looked a certain way, was doing something very unhygienic in public, it just went viral again. And again, like those kind of incidences exist, and that's why it adds more fuel to the fire. Like, we're not saying like things don't happen. There are some bad
Absolutely.
apples, obviously, but it's not just limited to the race in the end, right?
Exactly, right? And that's what's the most important to highlight is that a few people, and we've said this a couple of times already, but a few people cannot encompass and portray an entire country or an entire race or entire ethnicity.
Uh-huh.
So if you're judging someone based on something that you've seen online without doing your due diligence to that subject or speaking to multiple other people from that race or ethnicity, just ignore it and move forward. Don't let that build your perception of anyone out there. And here's one thing that recently my roommates and I did, which was almost kind of funny when it happened at the moment, wherein we were just passing by this random street, apartment hunting at that point in time, so just a busy time for ourselves. And we walked by this particular street, and there was this we just randomly spot like a $20 bill on the floor out there. And we were like, you know what? We looked around and there's clearly just one lady who's just about crossed the road. A lady, like I would say in her mid 50s-ish and probably Canadian itself. And so my roommate just runs up to her being like, hey, I think you dropped your $20 bill. And she just turns around and be like, oh, no, I don't think I dropped anything. And he still stayed there till she opened her purse and like checked. And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess I did drop it. But her instant reaction at that moment, which cracked me up more because of the irony of it all, was she just went like, "Oh my God, you're so honest." And my roommate just was like, "Yeah, you gotta be honest." And he just dipped from there at that point in time, and we carried on with our day. But at that point in time, us being good, hopefully in some ways changed her perception in her head. And I feel like that's what we kind of need a little more of. Sure, there's gonna be these 10,000 videos that are going to go viral every now and then of people being bad, but why is no one talking about the people being good as well?
Make the good stuff go viral, guys. And on that note, maybe this video even.
Hopefully, hopefully.
All right. This one's been a little heavy. It's just been closer to our hearts than other topics, I suppose. Not that those don't count as well. And if you resonated with it, drop us
Mhm.
a comment. Let us know if hopefully you haven't faced any of these, but if you have, if you want to share them, drop them down in the comments. And if not, you can DM us as well.
And if you like this episode, make sure, and if you're listening to us on an audio platform, make sure to review us wherever you're listening because that helps us reach a wider audience. And that's kind of what we need, at least for a video like this.
For sure. Definitely. All right. And with that, we'll leave you all in that introspection and see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.